Welcome, everyone. It is Sandra Alexei from Game Changer. Okay, and have we got a game changer guest today? I'm very, very excited. Today is March the 25th. We're just in the energies of the full moon. Okay, it's a full moon in, I think it's Libra. Yeah, it is Libra because we're doing the axis for the relationships, okay, self and others and that type of thing. So today we have, I hope I pronounce everything right. We have KATH Dunlop here today, KATH Dunlop, and it's very interesting. I'm very blessed because we met through the ethers. She's actually from New York, and it's really funny. As you shift your consciousness and raise your frequency, there's people that are drawn to you, okay? And so she's with a group out of New York that I'm working with, and then she got a hold of me for a reading, and it was just like, wow, there was something different. And when I looked at her chart, it just went, wow, I don't think I've ever, and I've done thousands of charts, okay? So today, she's got a very, very special gift. You're going to see in the hashtags how you can get a hold of her. But her company is called Intentionalbeingkdunlop, okay? And she's going to talk about, for me, the mysterious, and I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, Akashic records. And it's funny because that is the one thing I've done lots of past life and that type of thing, but have never had somebody that I sense that's really into it. Welcome today. And if you can pronounce it right and all about it, what your journey is, this is your story, Kate.
Oh, thank you so much, Sandra. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. You know, my journey to the Akashic records was, it was a little bit unique, I guess, because I had never even heard of the Akashic records in my life until I started on my spiritual awakening path. And so all of my life, I've had just knowing, you know, just had this sense of things before they happened, or knew things that were happening in the moment with my loved ones and people I knew and things like that. And I never really thought a lot about it. I thought everybody did this. But my sisters used to tease me that you're a witch. Don't think about me. Don't dream about me. Don't think about me.
Right.
And, you know, over the course of my life, as everyone does, you have these significant emotional events that happen.
Right.
And I would have these messages coming through that I would often dismiss. And finally, after my marriage broke up and I was just really lost and confused, started praying and asking questions about, there's got to be more to life than this. Like, what is going on? There's got to be a way to control my life more than this, you know?
Right.
And so I started going to practitioners for answers. So I started with shamans and mediums and spiritual coaches. And the second shaman I went to see said to me, "You'll be working in the Akashic records. You have been for many lifetimes."
Right.
And I thought, okay, that went back into the way recessed files of my brain because I had never heard the word before and I had no idea what that was about.
And I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I started taking an intuitive development class at the center in New York with Brandon Ross. And during one of our classes, he says to me, "Why don't you explain the Akashic records?" And I said, "What? Why are you saying that to me?" And he said, "Well, I'm a medium, Kath. I read people for a living. And you've been reading the Akashic records forever, and it's what you do. And I was just baffled by this. Crazy. So I'm doing my research and reading because I'm kind of a learning junkie. And I am in a bookstore with my sister who is looking for a book, and I'm just browsing, not paying much attention to anything in particular. And this book catches my eye, and I pull the book off the shelf, and it's How to Read the Akashic Records. And I thought, okay, that's 3 times.
Right.
Okay.
I get it.
I get it.
Right.
I'm listening. And so I started reading and reading and reading and listening to YouTube videos by Teal Swan and Linda Howe and a number of people, Andrea Hess and different experts in this area. And I am certified with Andrea Hess as a soul realignment practitioner. And what that means is I go into the Akashic records and learn about a person's soul blueprint through the Akashic record. And it tells us what our creative gifts are. It tells us who our soul group is. We can find out information about past life blocks restricting us from accessing these energetic gifts. And when you learn about these things, it really just helps you live more intentionally, which is why I call my business Intentional Being. It's about having the information that can help you understand who you are at the soul level, so that when you're making choices in your life and you're making decisions about relationships and circumstances, you have some information to say, oh, you know what? This is why this doesn't resonate with me, you know? So what are the Akashic records? It's basically an energetic database of everything that's ever happened in the 3rd dimension throughout all time, past, present, and potential future. And I say potential future because depending on the choices we make, the potential future changes each moment. Every choice we make slightly alters the potential future that we're creating. And so we can look at, what are we doing today? What's the energy looking like today? And what's the potential future look like for someone? But more importantly, it's about, for me anyway, it's really about helping people understand who they are and what kind of baggage they sort of bring into this lifetime that doesn't necessarily serve them anymore. And let's clear that out so that we can really have a great experience here, which is ultimately what we're supposed to be doing. So that's, in a nutshell, my journey.
Okay, so when you're talking about that, for the simple reason that, because I do a lot with past life regression and that type of thing, and even in astrology with the nodal work and the shadow and that type of thing. So over the last few years, as we've moved from the Piscean to the Aquarian energy, which is very potent for you, and you're a potent time. I'm not going to say what the time is, it's very potent. The interesting thing is that, and that's basically what Game Changer was about, is because about 8 or 9 years ago, it was like, oh my God, I had all these people that relationships were not working, whatever. And so basically what's happening as we move into it is that it's time we finished off all of the ancestral, the past life, everything. So we clean the plate. So we clean the plate by, so if I'm in a relationship and somebody walks in the room and I go, oh my God, I got to be with that dude, hey? It's like, okay, what was the lesson? What am I going to do if I'm in relationship and all of a sudden now this person is here? So now I'm torn. And so I really think it's about lessons. So I think right now for people, and especially this moon, I mean, I think I sent you a copy of it. It's just like we are having major, major challenges in relationships. number one. And this is a Libra. Number two, I've been wanting to send Dr. Christine Northrup a copy of Game Changer because I watch her all the time. You won't believe it. Yesterday, she comes up and she goes, everything's changing in relationships. And we need to look at a new relationship, a kind of a dating thing. And I went, wow, that is my key. And today I went and had my business cards changed and done too. So it's like everything comes at a specific time. Oh,
Yes.
and so it's the clearing of that. And so for you, it's just like, I sense you're so familiar with it. It's just a part of you. You just read it. Like, so do you read people? Do you have to have their birthday? You just look at them, or what do you do?
Yep. So to access the record for someone else, you have to have their permission to do that.
Right.
And to, verify you're in the right record, we want to know the person's name, their birth date, and where they were born, the city and state where they're born. And that just verifies that, I'm talking about Sue Smith from
Right.
wherever versus Sue Smith from somewhere else, So those things are important. And then I go into the record, and there are so many ways to access the Akashic records. And there are many, many, many books out there that describe different techniques for this. I use a combination of things.
Well, I was
For
going to say,
example,
I think what you've done is much like I do with astrology. I've had so many teachers over the 50 years and whatever. And that's kind of your signature, and that's kind of your magic. And so that's, rather than, to me, it's really important, and I honor your process. Okay. So you can just say to people, there's many ways, because they have to find their own. And is yours, because people will want to, right now especially, because of my nodal position and my nose and everything. It's just like, so everybody's jumping on the bandwagon now, and they want to be a reader, they want to do this, they want to do that, for the simple reason that it's online and whatever. However, not everybody has that gift. You know what I'm saying? So part of my job, okay, and it can be a hard job, is the sword, because I cut, and people have said that. It's like to cut to see and to help them. Are you really on the right path or not? And I can't endorse somebody that says, oh, I'm the greatest thing ever, if in my heart I know that they're not there for the right reasons. And it's not that they're mainly bad, because there is good and bad in my world, okay, but it's just that they're really unconscious about it. And so what I like to do is, I think it's really important, if somebody ever, because I see you, I don't know if I even said this before, but I see you in time actually teaching it. So pull your combination in together, and now you're going to teach it. And so if anybody wants to have a session with you, everything's going to be in the hashtags, and they can get a hold of you, and then they can do a Zoom thing with you. Okay.
That's right.
And so what has been one of the most, one of the most kind of spectacular, it was just like, wow, you didn't see that coming. You don't have to name the client, but so you take this client, like for me, it was like with your chart. Okay.
Right. I guess it was, I had a person who was, what's the word I want to use? A walk-in. So what that means is, at birth, there was a different soul attached to that human body, and there was a choice made to not continue, and another soul came into that lifetime instead. Now, we all make choices, which is a really interesting thing when and why I'm so fascinated by your work, is because as a soul, we choose in every incarnation, the date, the time, the place, the astrological planetary alignments, the parents that we want to be born to, and so on. And so all of that impacts this incarnation. Well, those are all choices we made as a soul. So for someone to walk into a life that wasn't intended initially for that body is interesting, right? That's a really fascinating thing. And that was probably the most interesting conversations to have with someone. But again, it was meant to be. It was meant to be exactly the way it happened. So it's just interesting.
Right now, I have goosebumps, not just on my shoulders, but all down. When I lived in Hawaii, the kahunas used to call it chicken skin. Okay. And the interesting thing, I've only met one lady that was a walk-in. Okay.
Oh.
And the neat thing, it was when I was living in Hawaii and we were at this beautiful home at a pool party and that type of thing. And she walked in and there was just something totally different about her. I could not, because I don't see auras, but I feel energies. And it was like, it was not a confusing thing. It was just so unique that it was like, I went up to her and I go, I have no idea why, but there is something about you that is so unique. I don't even want to know your line, because usually I will say it. And that's when she said to me, I'm actually a walk-in. And I never really had a chance because I was coming back and forth. But she had a very, I would say this, a very interesting life.
Yes.
Very interesting, like quite high profile, but just really interesting. And so do you often see the walk-ins?
No, it's not. No, that was the one and only for me so far. But I think that everyone's record is fascinating to me. And the life stories that people have lived and how they're affecting them in this lifetime are always fascinating to me. And it is, I've yet to have a reading where someone hasn't said, oh my God, that totally is me. And that it makes complete sense to me. Oh, this is so helpful, which is so exciting for me because, I feel like what I love about this work is that I give people information. They have tools that they walk away with that they can actually apply to their everyday life in ways that are impactful. And that for me is just so rewarding and so energizing. And it gives me hope, it's very hopeful.
Well, the interesting thing is that there's a pragmatic side to you that will bring that down. So it brings the spirituality. And for me, it's all about the 8. It's aligning and that type of thing. So when you align, you can actually bring it down and you can have the practicality of it. So if you share with people with, this is a practical application, or these are the choices that you make, whatever, it'll assist them, because the bottom line is everything is about choice in every moment of every day that we are, and it's consciously, intentionally making it right now. And I know from astrology is I can look at somebody's chart and I could say, wow, they have been in a cloud or a daze for a couple of years. And that's simply because of the Neptunian clouding them. So they were clouded. They didn't have the clarity. Okay. So by the time they come to you, there's probably clarity.
Well, I think that
you will help them have the clarity.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the people that I work with are definitely on a path, right? They understand that they're a soul having a human experience. And that's the very first thing that I think when people are going through an awakening, that's sort of the first thing that they recognize, that, wait a minute, I'm more than just this, right? I'm more than this. And so how do I understand that? How do I wrap my head around that? And what information can I learn about myself, my higher self, in ways that can affect how I live my life? And I think that's a pretty profound place to be in anyone's path. I've worked with people who are very far along on their spiritual path, and then there are many others that are just in the early stages of their path, and everywhere in between. And it's always, this information seems just a game changer. It's a real shift in how they think about themselves and their life.
Well, I would say it's a game changer, and it's also a tipping point. Like Malcolm Gladwell, the futurist, talks about a tipping point. And another thing is that you have the ability to help them shift. So I would call you a transformer. And the very book I wrote in 2004 was Spawn Salon Alchemy, and it was a business book, except I had a whole chapter on mind, body, and spirit. And then Deo Judith gave me her pictures of the chakras and that type of thing. And I wrote about them. And at that time, I can remember the main thing in that was that the material world is not satisfying the soul. And so now people, and that's 2004, are having to go in and to have more of a soulful journey. Okay. And I always say to people, it doesn't matter. You can't take your phone with you. You can't take $500,000 ring with you in the coffin or whatever you're going to do. What you take with you is your whole being. Like, there's not a word for me. It's like a being. And so that's why right now for you, it's prime. I mean, when I looked at your chart and found out what you're doing, it was just exploding, for the simple reason that a whole Aquarian energy, and that's what people don't understand. The Aquarian energy, they've said, is like in the 60s, the age of Aquarius, and smoking dope and doing the hippie thing and whatever. It's the maturity of it now. Okay, it's freedom. Because the first thing about Aquarian energy is freedom. Don't fence me, I'm free. The next thing is I balance my left and right brain, masculine, feminine, head, heart, and that type of thing. And intuitively, I feel that that's something that you automatically assist them with in that whole being. That's came through with me right now. And then what happens, you become self-reliant. So again, we're an energy vampire. We're not a parasite or anything. We're whole. And guess what? We find your gift, just like you have your gift. I have my gift. Everybody has a gift. And it's like, once you have that gift and it's really your gift, somebody might say, but I want to do this. And I go, but you can try it. But if it's really not your gift, it doesn't usually work. And then they are disappointed. So let's discover what kind of your gift is. And I'm sure that that's what you can do with people, is do that. And then that's when it reminds me of a flower that just blooms. And
exactly,
the flower blooms. We're raising our frequency right now in energy, and then the attraction comes. And that was one of the things that with you, because it's like we're kind of kindred spirits. Now, when we talk about, if we're saying the Akashic records from the third dimension, what about the different souls, like the star seeds, and that coming from a different dimension or a different universe or whatever? You don't need to name them or anything, but that's still relevant. So is that in those records, or is that another thing?
Yeah, so it's going to be the experience of that soul in any dimension and any time.
Okay.
So yeah, so what's interesting to me is that when you look at the soul blueprint, we're looking at how the soul was created at origination. And so we'll talk about the soul group is often not necessarily earth-based. We usually come together in a star system, or we'll just call it a star system that is different than Earth. And we share traits with this group, and we come to Earth, which is a very challenging experience for most souls, to just have experience. And I think that what I love to share with people when we're talking about past lives, for example, because, you know, we've all had some pretty interesting past lives. And what we need to understand about that is that we like to label things good and bad, you know, right or wrong. And really, it's all just experience. And so if we can let go of our judgments about our own mistakes, experiences in this lifetime and in past lifetimes, and just trying to understand what it is that we were getting from all of that. As a soul, what were we learning? What were we gaining from those experiences that we can now apply to this lifetime to have that enriched experience that we want to have by using that information? So I find that fascinating. And yeah, the Akashic records, I mean, it's expansive. So we're in the third dimension, and the third dimension is moment to moment, right? We have this moment and this moment and this moment, and that's what we have in the third dimension. The fourth dimension, we get to move back and forth in time. It's where our mental body lives. It's where our memories are. It's where we project to the future. It's where we can dream and do all that thing. And we move in time. We can move back and forth in time in the fourth dimension. You get into the fifth dimension, and it's captured all of the things that are happening in these two dimensions. And then we have information that goes past life and future life potential. And then from there, each dimension beyond that builds on the others, right? So it captures all the information from the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and seventh, and so on and so on and so on. It just gets more expansive. And each of the universes has their own database, the source of information. It's all connected, and it's, you know, accessible. It's about raising your own vibration to be a match to be able to access that level of information, right? So that's the practice, and that's the work that people who work in the Akashic records do. And it's about really having a good practice of doing a daily meditation and clearing your chakras and doing the energy work that and healing work that you need to do, doing the shadow work that people talk about, and really going internal and doing that work and understanding yourself. And I think that's really where my journey shifted, was when I stopped looking externally for answers and started going internally for my answers. And that's why the Akashic record is so fascinating for me, because it's my story, right? That's my story that I'm interested in.
Right. And so for me, it's about what I call, and somebody names it the work. I can't remember who says the work, if it's Rumi or somebody, but another person, it's called burning the dross. And another thing is, when you went through your experience to get into your shift, it's like the dark night of the soul. There's so many different terms for it. And it is a within journey, and it's something that to embody, and it can be very, very painful physically, emotionally, spiritually. And that's why, and that's one of the things in Game Changer, even, is like, you have to be emotionally honest. So you can't be in a relationship if all of a sudden somebody has shifted so much and they go, you know what, I just can't be with you. So that's where the term uncoupling come in. So it's uncoupling with honor, uncoupling with respect, and even friendships. Okay, if people, that's really an Aquarian thing, because the energy is quite impersonal and can be really detached, but it's very humanitarian, and it wants fairness, and it has to be good for everybody. Okay. But that doesn't mean we have to go into this whole codependency and somebody's got to be the victim and whatever. It's just like, wow, let's really look at this. So it's prime time for you. And it's really fascinating. I picked up about 4 different classes that you will be teaching within the next, I would say, in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years, but and you know it, and because you have the mind to do it, it's just going to go boom. It'll chunk it, and you'll know. But anyway, this is fascinating. So if you want to share more, if you want to tell people how they can get a hold of you,
Absolutely. So my website is Intentional Being K.
Just wait, there's something wrong with you're too close to the mic or something.
Sometimes it does this. Hang on one second. Let me.
Okay.
Is that better?
No, it's still breaking up. So anyway, it's Intentional Being K Dunlop, and we're going to have all the hashtags and everything. And for whatever reason, obviously somebody doesn't want you, I think they don't want you to say anymore because this is a mystery. It's a very, I call it, I have to thank you so much because over 50 years of doing this kind of work, you're the first one that's actually helped me to understand those records. People have talked to me about it and I've had readings and that type of thing, but it never really made sense to me. Okay. And so I want to thank you for coming. And what I want you to do is anybody get a hold of her. Okay. And let her assist you because this is prime time. And there's a reason it's happened on this weekend or right now this week, because we have this full moon going on. It's about relationship. And this is about your relationship with yourself. Okay. That's what it's all about. And it's really funny. I wonder if it's your father that was saying hello. Who knows? Okay. Yeah, because it's still doing that. So I am going to just wait. I have to get my glasses on so I know what I'm doing here because I don't want to ruin this. So I'm going to make sure not pause.